All right, y'all, I promised to do a part 2 video on Trent and how it relates to Vatican II, and I have not had time. It's middle of the night, no makeup on. Let's go. Okay, so basically, you have Pope John the 23rd is the one who opened the Second Vatican Council. And he had very much studied the Council of Trent. He loved it. He was very much inspired by the fact that the Council of Trent implemented a lot of reforms in the church and just really put it in a positive direction and all the good that it did, basically. And he's like, I want that for the church. We need a new renewal. We need a reform. We got to do something. We should open a council. But he kept this very hush hush. So when he announced that there was going to be a council, a ton of the cardinals were like, wait, what? Like, they didn't even know. And a lot of them were even against it. They're like, we don't need a council. Why are we doing a council? Usually it's to answer certain heresies or schisms or ideas that have been floating around for a while, and it's time for the church to say something. And they're like, we don't need to say anything. Leave it alone. Don't cause trouble. And he's like, no, it is necessary. I do want to do this. We do need reform. And so, okay, let's see here. So why exactly? Okay, so you have the French Revolution, the Enlightenment era. It had created this anti-religion mindset, anti-clericism. We don't like priests. We don't like Catholicism. We want to just tear it all down. So, and this was 1962, right? When Vatican II opened, 62 to 65. They had just gone through World War I, World War II. So there was just a lot going on, okay? And the church was like, no, we need to be a light in the darkness. We need to be a voice speaking out. And basically you have too, where the church for so long had, and a couple people had said this, Rock Kareshti is one of those. Was he a Cistercian? He has a book, The Church of Jesus Christ. And he had also said in there where basically that the church was acting for a long time like a fortress that was surrounded by enemies on all sides. So it was very much a defense. It was in defense mode. And if you look back at Christ and the apostles, the church was not meant to be in defense mode. It was meant to go out and preach the good news to everybody. It was meant to have arms open wide, proactively, like the prodigal son. You have like the father's running towards the prodigal. It's not just the prodigal son running to the father starts running as well. So it's that, God going out to meet you, and that's what the church is supposed to do, to go out and meet the world and bring them into the light, bring them into out of the darkness, right? So the church was in defense mode, like a fortress for so long, and John the 23rd's like, no more of that. So he was there for the first session, and then he died, and Pope Paul VI continued it on for the next, was it 1 or 2 sessions after that? I don't recall, but he carried it on from then on. And they had the Ressourcement School. The Ressourcement School, basically the Ressourcement means to go back to the sources, basically going back to the church fathers and studying them. And you had some pretty good names part of this Ressourcement movement. You had Karol Wojtyła, Pope John Paul II, Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger, Benedict XVI, basically, Edith Stein, Hans Urs von Balthasar, a lot of really good names who were part of this Ressourcement, going back to the sources, because the goal was, by going back to the sources, we are holding on to the traditions of the church and moving forward. It was not about basically everything that everyone understands about Vatican II and how they think it's so horrible is basically because the media completely misrepresented what was going on in the council. So people in America and in other countries, they just heard what the media was telling them, and the media was lying, okay? When has the media ever really been on our side? Let's be honest. So basically, yeah, so they had some good things to say in the Vatican, in the Second Vatican Council, if you read their documents. They were going back to the sources. There was supposed to be a reform of the church, making it more authentically Catholic, more authentically faithful, adhering to traditions. And they did want to change the liturgy, yes, but that doesn't mean it was for a negative way. They were noticing, they're like, the people don't even recognize what they're doing in the Mass. They don't recognize what it's for. They can't fully engage because there's an ignorance there. So they were saying some changes need to be made according to your diocese, because how the church looks in Africa is going to be so different than how it looks in America. So they're not going to have one set rubric for all the whole world. And one might say, well, the Latin Mass is one set rubric for the whole world. Well, look at the different rites: Ruthenian rite, Byzantine rite, Ambrosian rite. Like, they don't all do it in Latin, and it's perfectly valid, perfectly licit, and the church actually says it is equal. These rites are all equal with one another. One is not better than the other. The church says this. So basically, to get back to it, the Restore Simone School, going back to the sources, supposed to help move it in a positive direction. Now, but to go back to this idea of the fact that the church was in defense mode, I think we had gone on like a tangent. It's all related to Vatican II, but a little bit of a tangent. To go back to this fortress and everything, the church wanted to stop that. That's why you don't see in the Vatican II documents how it doesn't say, if anyone says this, let it be anathema. Let them be anathema. Let this. So you see that in a lot of the previous documents from the other church councils, where it's anathemizing or condemning certain heretical thoughts, movements, etc. It didn't do that this time, not because it got all pansy pants, but because it was basically saying, you know what, when the French Revolution came along, we completely condemned it, and it was wrong. They should condemn it, absolutely. But what we are supposed to do is see things with eyes of truth, okay? If someone, I don't know, you watch a movie, okay? You watch a movie, you can't just say that whole movie was horrible, that whole movie was wonderful. No, you say these parts of the movie were bad and immoral, and these parts of the movie were really good, and they helped you think. And you can laud the good things while condemning the bad. Okay, you can't just do black and white on everything, especially when these people who are impoverished and in these hard situations, and you have things like socialism and fascism and all these things that were going on in the 20th century, right? And these different groups that were rising in the French Revolution in the 19th century, you have these people who are poor and impoverished, and they're like, the upper guys are never looking out for us, and they want someone. They're like, we have to look out for ourselves. Imagine how it would be if the Catholic Church was like, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad, don't do that, and then they're like, okay, well, what can we do? Just don't do anything, just stay away from that. Yes, but give us a positive. So you're telling us to stay away from the negative, but what can we do, because we need to get out of this bad situation? It is absolutely good to condemn the bad, not trashing that, obviously, like I said, but we have to see things with eyes of truth. And that is what Pope John the 23rd wanted to do in the Second Vatican Council, is look at things and say, let's affirm the good and denounce the bad, okay? Like, no more us against them, us against them. It's not us against them. It's, we have the fullness of truth. We have all the grace in the Catholic Church. We have all the gifts of the Holy Spirit in the Catholic Church. Mother has everything you need, okay? We are for you, not against you. And this is the fullness. This is what we believe. This is what is good. So it was basically arms open wide, okay? It wasn't anathema. It was no more finger pointing, no more condemnation. And even Christ himself said, I have not come to, what did he say? I have not come to condemn, but to save. Pardon me, I should be quoting it better. It's nighttime, we'll use that excuse. But basically, he doesn't need to condemn. Before baptism, we are in darkness. We are in darkness. God doesn't need to condemn. He saves us through baptism, and he brings us into the light. Okay, God only offers us light, wholeness, and healing. It's what's that one song? It's a jungle out there, right? So the world is in darkness, and the church opens its arms and says, come into the light. Come where Christ can save you. He has given us everything, and with him you can be holy. The church is holy because its spouse, Christ, is holy, and we are made holy in this union. Join us. Okay, so basically, we're not against you, we are for you. So this is why the church did not say anathema this, anathema that. And I think that's really important. There is so much more to say on the Second Vatican Council, but hopefully that helps for now, and how it relates to the Council of Trent. And that Reformation video kind of set the stage for the Council of Trent, and Trent set the stage for the Second Vatican Council. Oh, probably something that's also important to talk about, let's do this, here we go, is the First Vatican Council was supposed to be a lot longer. It was, they had to close it after, I think, one session. They were supposed to talk about a few different things, and they were only able to talk about the infallibility of the Pope. And then they had to shut down the council because apparently there was some war going on in Italy at the time, and it was affecting the surroundings of the Vatican, and they're like, oh, okay, we actually can't do a council right now. We got to wrap this up and deal with the problem that's going on outside. So they had to shut down the council real quick, and as a result, they only spoke about papal infallibility, and it made it just sound like, I'm the Pope, I'm in charge, ... And it was still a morally binding document, but they didn't get to expound like they wanted to. Imagine if you wanted to say a message and you only got to say half your message, and it was the strong part of your message, but it didn't give the whole picture. You started strong, and then you were going to expound and give examples, etc., and it would make it more palatable. They weren't able to do that. They gave the strong message and then stopped there. And so with the Second Vatican Council, they're like, okay, we affirm what the First Vatican Council said about papal infallibility, but we need to expound a little bit because we didn't talk about the roles and duties of the bishop, of the laity, of the different hierarchy in the church. We just talked about the Pope, and we don't mean to set up this elite system. I don't know, maybe that sounds bad, but like they were basically saying like he does have special duties, he does have this special role, but let's also talk about everyone else's roles too, because everyone plays a part. He is a servant of the servants of God. That's one of the titles of the Pope. So you have bishops are the servants of, servant to the servants of God. I think that's what it is. Yeah. So basically, the higher your role and authority, the higher your responsibility to serve. So it's not that he's all the way up here and he's all fancy pants. It's that, it's that there's so much more to unpack, basically, and they didn't get to unpack all of that. So the Second Vatican Council gave an opportunity to talk more about that, and we see that in the document Lumen Gentium, where I think the first 2 chapters are all about the church. I think the first one is the church, the second one is the people of God, and it isn't until chapter 3 that they talk about the hierarchy. And then I think chapter 4 might be the laity. So there's like 7 chapters. And there was a lot that they talked about, and they're like, there's just so much more. Everyone's a part of the church. We want to affirm that and the beauty of that, and how everyone has a role in the church, and those roles are crucial and beautiful and essential and part of God's saving plan. So there was just so much beauty in the Second Vatican Council, and I'm sure you could do so many videos on it, but this is part 2. Not what I was hoping for it to be, but hopefully still very helpful. I think I touched on all the points that I planned on. I wrote a list this time so I could stay on track. Yep, pretty much did. Awesome. Okay, let me know in the comments section what you think. If you have any questions, if you have ideas for a video that you want to see. All right, have a great rest of your night. Bye-bye. And day, which maybe you're seeing this during the day, but I'm going to go to bed. Good night.